Hey YouTubers, today we're doing some painting in a kitchen. I'm going to show you how to paint in tight spaces between window frame and kitchen cabinets so as to not get paint all over the place. So let's get into the demonstration. So this is the kitchen area that we have to paint, or at least one wall where the cabinets are, and you can see this window here has a back band on the window frame, and it's very close to the kitchen cabinets on either side. Now in this case is borderline. We probably could paint this out without too much trouble, but it could be even finer than this. It could be 1 inch apart. I would say it's about 2.5 to 3 inches apart, but it could be tighter than that. It could be, say, 1 inch. And in such a case, what do we do? Do we use a small brush, or do we just use the brush we're using and incorporate some tape? So we're going to use some tape. So what I do is take off a short piece of the tape, then I'm going to just lay down my piece on this wainscot trim first. If you have a scenario like that, or if the wall drops right down to the baseboard, if it's a door frame, then you just want to tape off the top of your baseboard first. Make sure you get tight into the corners. It doesn't matter about this because we're going to run our tape straight down onto it. Then just pull off enough tape to cover our window frame, and if you hold it at the top against the wall like that first, and then you just slide the tape until it touches the wall, and then press it against the window frame, you'll have a nice join at the point of contact between the frame and the wall. Then we can just wrap our excess tape around there, wrap it on the top, then we just do the same thing, take off our tape for that approximate distance. I'll demonstrate how we actually go about painting this area. So now you can see we're starting to cut in, and we've come to this first side of the window frame. So what I do is I just load up my brush, and this brush load will probably paint this whole area. What I do is I start in the middle, just spread the paint through the center of the area, and then by the time I get out to the edges, my brush is much drier. And then I just proceed to cut in. And if I happen to hit this window frame with my brush, it's protected with the tape. And then paint in the bottom area, point that in. And now as I come up and paint this edge, if my brush touches the cabinet, then the tape is there to save it. And so there, it's just taken a few seconds to paint that in. And what I'll do is I'll cut everything in, and then I'll come back and just paint this twice, and then I don't have to worry about it anymore. I'll just demonstrate this again. So I load up my brush, and then I would start in the middle of the space and just spread the paint through that open area. Get the bulk of the paint off the brush, and then I would cut in. I wouldn't deliberately put paint up against this tape, I wouldn't slop the paint in here. I would still try to cut in. But if my brush should happen to hit this, if this was a tighter space, my brush would more than likely be hitting this trim all the way down. But you can see the tape is protecting it. You get to the bottom, we just knife that in to the corner. And again, we don't want to, by now our brush is getting quite dry, so we don't want to force a whole lot of wet paint in behind this tape. It's pretty much just a guide and a protective precaution so that we don't get paint up against these expensive cabinets. And then you just go to the other side, same thing, excuse my back, but you can just paint that in there, and by now the brush is quite dry, so we're not too worried about the paint leaking in behind the tape. And then again, I'd cut this whole area in, cut the whole room in, and then just brush this out again, and we're done. So here's an example of a slightly wider space between the cabinets and the trim. However, there's a light switch in the way. So we would just cut in ordinarily. We don't need tape or anything to cut this in, but you can see that trying to tuck the paint in between the light switch and the cabinet is a little bit of a tight spot. So again, we just put the tape up on there, and it's much easier just to remove the tape, to tape it and remove it, than it ever would be to try to clean that off. So just a little extra tip there for you.